What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Identity Jedi Show. Last one of the year before 2026. Let's get real for a second. Be right back after the break.
Started from the bottom, kept on climbing, perfect timing, looking down from the top. I don't see no opposition from my position. I'm focused. It's the must I complete the mission. I won't stop, I can't stop. The grind is all I know. I'm focused, I can't stop. The hustle's all I know. I'm hungry, ambitious. My heart is on go. You in the presence of greatness. That's all you need to know.
Welcome back, guys. Man, we are wrapping up this year rapidly. Man, it's been a roller coaster of a year. We saw a lot. I'm not going to give you my 2026 trends. I'm probably going to do that as a one-off before the end of the year. So make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, locked in to the podcast, whatever platform that you are listening to this on. If it's on Spotify, like, rate, subscribe. Make sure you are following. If it's on YouTube, like, hit the button. Make sure you get the notification because I'm going to drop my trends video later on this week. So you get this before the new year. I'll let you in on all the things about my 2026 trends that I think you're going to see in Identity. Also, I'm going to drop a top 10 highlights from the year coming later on this year because it's the end of the year. We got to do the wrap up thing. But man, 2025, crazy year in Identity, AI. We saw a lot of things coming down the pike this year. And you know, this was my first year kind of back really in front of customers. And it's very interesting what I saw this year. And I'm going to get into that here in just a sec as kind of the opening to this podcast. Let's get to the housekeeping. We got a little bit of it. Hey, make sure you head over to theidentitijedi.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Drops every other Wednesday. We got blogs on Monday. We got premium, we got mastery, all sorts of good things going on over there. Make sure you sign up, get all the content we have over there. Like, rate, subscribe, whatever platform you listen to this on. We appreciate it. All the likes go a long way. Yeah, all the good stuff. This episode, we have another special guest interview coming up. I'm not even going to spoil it. We're going to get into it once you get in there, but it's a great interview. Got a chance to get connected with this gentleman. We have a great conversation, really just kind of delving into just AI in general. And, I love that this year, this kind of also became an AI podcast. And I think I'm going to do more with that. I personally love this field of AI. I think I'm going to do more of that, especially going into next year. I don't know if I'll actually branch it off to its own podcast, but maybe next year I'll actually do more of a, just a themed dropped on this, like kind of like I did with the, leadership series and the founder series a couple of years ago. Maybe we'll do that next year with AI. But, coming back to, this year and some of the things, my kind of thoughts on getting back out in front of customers this year. The interesting thing that I saw, and the kind of theme that I saw from customers this year was, one, for as much as we've advanced with technology, as much as the tools have gotten better to allow customers to implement much more things, we're still very much building identity programs like it's 2010. I saw a lot of customers where they have maybe 10, 15% if they're lucky of their applications onboarded, still struggling with access certifications, like just basic fundamental things still not done. And that truly shocked me. I thought as an industry we were much further along. And what started out as shock, I was like, oh, wow, we've got a lot of work to do. As the year went on, and I saw the speed at which AI was shifting application development, it was shifting security threats, that shock became real concern. And not to the level of, I get it, like in security, we sometimes get this, Chicken Little, woe was me. We're always, saying everything's bad, sky's falling, blah, 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 whatever. But, this for me was concern in the fact that I don't think we see what's coming because we're so focused and we're so behind and focused on what's in front of us. We're still looking at things very much from an administrative standpoint that we can't see the glaring security holes that are coming in front of us. And we're not going to be able to move at the speed or speak in the security language that we need to, because we're not able to even think that way, because we're still trying to handle basic administration task of identity management, really. And with that, we have this kind of generational shift of, a newer generation of talent coming into the identity and access management field, identity security field now. Awesome, great. Learning the industry, learning the field, which is fantastic. But like, our paths for getting into this field are very much now vendor specific. And so we've shifted towards like this very technology specific, like, get this AD certification or this Okta certification or this Cellpoint certification. And that's your entry point into identity and access management. So then all people know is like AD or Okta, and that's identity is so much bigger than that. There's so many things that you need to understand. And so you mix all that together, and what you get is you walk into these customers and they have very immature programs. They don't know how to speak to the business. They don't understand the broad aspect of governance and standards and protocols and how all of this needs to tie together. And yet, their remit is to make it all work. And vendors have the magic wands. But AI is going to fix it all. It's troubling, friends. It's troubling. I do think AI will give us a tremendous amount of benefits. I do. I see the ability to connect and connect to applications and systems. I think that should be table stakes by the middle of next year, right? The ability to onboard an application into a system, literally, we should never be talking about this again by the end of next year. Like, everybody should have figured that out. That's how good the technology is. Now, will it be perfect? No. Right? We'll have to start doing it at scale and working out the bugs, but like, from where we were just a year ago, the manual effort to be able to go and get that done, like 10 times better. The ability to process data. And let me really explain what I mean by that. Like, I would implore you, if you're listening to this and you're a practitioner, like, grab your favorite tool. I don't ChatGPT, Claude, whatever it is, right? And this is really where I miss the fact that we don't have open source tools anymore. But like, I would love to say if we had like an open source lab where you could take, like a Claude or a ChatGPT, an MCP server, connect it in and like bring in like source data and the identity data, and just watch how you can interact with identity data. The ability to report and interrogate data in business language, and then take your, hey, show me all of my users and the riskiest entitlements, and how I should help me come up with an approach of how I should go about remediating this access. Looking at all the applications I have connected, what's the next steps I should do for reducing risk? Like, you can actually start talking to your business users can start talking to their applications in real language, and starting to come up with getting responses, starting to come up with plans of how to go about attacking and reducing their risk. Guys, this is so powerful. Now, The things that it's spitting out, are they completely accurate? Not all the time. Are they 80 to 90% accurate? Yeah, they are. This is game changing. And this is where we start to shift into like this new age that we're entering. And so now, a couple of weeks ago, I put out this blog post, "The Death of Advisory as We Knew It." And what does that landscape look like? And what does that mean we have to deliver, us as practitioners, the true value we need to deliver to our customers and help them to sort through this new generation of solutions? Interesting times. I'm excited. I'm excited because I've always looked at this as, let's provide real solutions and value. Let's solve problems. And now we get to solve problems at a speed that we've never been able to do before. And I think we should embrace it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So let's get you over to the interview. Enough of me monologuing. We'll get you over to the interview. Come back afterwards. We'll wrap this thing up. Let's get into 2026. We'll see you after the break. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Identity Jedi Show. It has been a while. We're coming in on the holiday season. Everybody's got the pumpkin spice. The leaves are turning. That chill is in the air. It is that time, and here we are. But, we don't slow down the Identity Jedi Show. Only thing that happens is I don't travel to cold places anymore. I stay right here, nice and cozy with my fireplace on, and we keep having awesome guests coming on to the show. And of course, we have another one coming up for you today. And I'm excited to have this conversation. Me and this gentleman haven't had the pleasure of meeting each other yet. So you guys get to see our first meeting. We're going to have this meeting together with you guys. So you're going to come into this conversation, but I'm excited to have this conversation because we do have one connection in common. And that connection is a gentleman that I met this year, near and dear to my heart. So I got to shout out Mr. Paul Gravick, PG, my guy, Mr. Giants fan, Mr. New Yorker, we have in common. But welcome to the show, Roz, CEO and co-founder of Fabrics, here to hang out on the Identity Show and come talk identity. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this conversation too. I've been following the show, and definitely Paul is the man.
He is. Listen, for those of you that know PG, he is a guy to know. It's just, listen, you guys know me that follow me. I'm all about good humans. He is definitely one of those good humans. So PG, we love you, man. Shout out. So Ross, tell the people a little bit about yourself, man. Like, how did you get into this crazy world of identity? A little bit about your background. Tell us how you got started.
Well, definitely. So, I started my career as a programmer. Now, it's very different today being a programmer than what it was like 15 years ago, but I've been always around computers. And where I'm based, you have to do a military service. So I had the pleasure of joining one of the elite technological units when I was about 19 years old, after graduating my computer science, my bachelor's in computer science. This is where I learned cybersecurity. I dealt with technologies that are like operating system internals. I dealt with amazing projects, and I got to see what cyber actually is. But then I wanted to switch to another world. I spent a few years there, about 5 years, and then I decided it was time for me to leave, as I wanted to learn something new. And it was early 2018, and I joined as a first employee to a company that did AI. Now, AI back in 2018 was very different than what it is today.
Yeah.
It was more like classical machine learning, but I had the fortune to spend about 6.5 years there until the company was acquired by NVIDIA last year. So not only that I saw the company grows, I also saw the industry and the AI, like the artificial intelligence in general, where it's heading. And this was my time. This was the time where I realized that I want to bring AI, what I learned in AI, to my roots in cybersecurity. And this led me to where I am today.
Nice. So yeah, man, that's a very interesting path too. And I'm gonna take some time. Let's stay there for a little bit because you got a chance, to your point, to really see AI kind of catapult to what it is today, right? And that's because that's something that I, talk to people about too, because it's it's so crazy now, right? Like what we know of AI, like and really this version of AI really is only the last 2 years, right? Most people who are getting into it now don't realize that, AI has been around for like 40, 50 years, right? Like this is like, for those of you who are just now getting into it, like IBM, like Watson, like these things have been around for a long time. But it was mostly like machine learning and algorithms and neural networks. Like for those of us who are nerds, right? Like this has been a field of study for a long time, mostly data science and really it's the study of large numbers and math, right? And so it was a bunch of nerds for a long time figuring out like how to look at all these things and how to make a computer understand like all these large numbers and what that means. And if I have a bunch of large numbers and I put them together, like how do I get a computer to crunch these numbers and start to see patterns and how can I predict those patterns? And right. So that was a lot of, kind of AI for the longest time is looking at these big models and building these neural networks and trying to solve equations and doing these things, protein building, things like that. Right. It was a lot of that stuff. And so to get into it, like it just took this big, huge effort and a lot of mathematical skills to get into it. Like you literally had to have a PhD in math to even get into this stuff. Right. So it was to see that shift, right? And the creation of LLMs, right? That kind of breakthrough of understanding LLMs was really what kind of started to go, oh, okay, well now it kind of softens that barrier, right? So I kind of compared for the coding world, it was like object oriented programming, right? Like that abstraction layer to go, all right, well now you don't have to come down here and manage memory and all this stuff, whatever. We're going to create you an abstraction layer, and so now you can just kind of live up here, coders. You don't have to come down in machine language and assembly and all this stuff, whatever. Like, okay, so for those of you who are just now following, you're really, for those of you that don't think I actually have a computer science degree, you're starting to realize that, yeah, I really am a nerd, right? So, but that's what kind of led to this, right? So that's pretty cool that you got a chance to kind of really see that, right? And see this explosion. And then especially, being acquired by a company like NVIDIA, which has just been at the center of this whole thing, right? Building these chips that have really just been supercharging all of this. So, coming out of that acquisition in NVIDIA, what's I can imagine then coming out of that, you're looking at this and going, wow, this is you can kind of see where the future's going. So I imagine you're kind of, supercharged and thinking like, hey, I I can probably see some areas that I want to go address now. This is probably going to be some fun.
Yeah, so seeing the future is one skill that I'm working on, but I'm definitely seeing the opportunities. And you said beautiful things about AI and about LLM. So AI has been here like for decades, right? The and I think the significant like what was very significant around ChatGPT, and I've had a lot of conversation with a lot of smart people, like way smarter than myself. And I think essentially it's not the technological aspect of the behind the scenes because there were a lot of impressive models before, but it essentially boils down to the interface. Because up until then, you had to take your data, take your query, translate it to like a data frame that the model can understand, run the model, and then parse the output. But essentially, what models like essentially LLMs like ChatGPT and models even before that did is that they brought AI to everybody because everybody knows natural language. And
Right.
this was like the shocking moment where you didn't need anymore to learn anything before. You didn't even need to know all these matrix multiplications and what are dimensions, etc. Right? You only needed to be able to type English
Right.
and to read English. And I think this was like the breakthrough in AI. And I obviously behind the scenes there's a lot of like mathematical breakthroughs like attentions and things like that. But essentially, you know what they say about user interfaces. So I think it's just another case. And I think that seeing that, like as each and every other person on this planet talking to ChatGPT, it responds like immediately and interactively. It just blew my mind. And only then like I started to see like immediately, weeks after this was released, how the community reacts. So not only models were being built, but the world tried to take these like sandboxed models that can answer questions, and yeah, there are the big research labs that make the models even smarter and being able to answer harder questions and better answers, provide you with better answers, right? But the world started to work a lot, to do a lot of engineering around LLMs to be able to allow LLMs to essentially interact with the world and provide real value to the world. And this was when I was struck, because this was when I realized that it's not only a piece of art, it can actually change products and entire industries.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so, and I've said this so many times on this show, and I think, a lot of my followers are probably going to get tired of it, but I really feel like it's the catalyst, right? And because we're seeing it happen, in real life. It is this beautiful connection between, you know, creativity and execution that is, what I saw envisioned in the Iron Man movie with, Tony Stark and Jarvis, right? The ability to at the speed that a creative person can think, right? And say, this is what I want to do, you know, and I've got an idea in my head and now I need to visualize it. And so to see that and, to speak it and to work with a system that can say, okay, well now I can, crunch those numbers to provide that. And so now like I'm truly interacting and building something at that time, right? To your point about, art, like that's what I'm seeing happen with these LLMs as fast as the models are being built and what people are being able to do with them. And now to your point about that interactiveness, right? So now as humans are interacting with them, as systems are interacting with them, it's, you ask a question, give it this data, some of the things that, I've been seeing, people do, like give it data analysis. I'll give it a perfect example. Last week I took, a lot of my, social media data, and I said, okay, here's all of the data for last week, and analyze it, right? So it takes it and analyzes the data, and it says, okay, well, here's what I'm seeing, with this data. This is this impression rate, and so here's how this responded. Okay, so let's look at this, and then based on that, now let's, create, this type of campaign, and then let's do this, and here's with this campaign, let's lead it to the website for these type of, impressions, and let's look at this bounce rate. And so now it's like I'm having this conversation in real time based on data, getting results, and then now I'm going to go and provide results off of that. Okay, so based on that, let's go try this. Let's change the page to go look at this with this campaign and go track it. Right? Okay, great. Now we've got a new campaign with a new social media, with a new page based on data from, last week, all of the conversation within minutes. Boom. Now let's go make it happen. And it's that type of stuff, right? And this is all like happening in a conversation quickly. And that is, I mean, you look at them, and to me, I mean, it's beautiful, right? And then so now we're in this is the world we now live in, right? And so you look at that and it's like, you can apply that to anything, right? You can apply that to any system, to, identity, to security, to, freaking, we're seeing it in health and research. And so it is truly an exciting time, to see all this. Also, like the security practitioner in me, right? It's a scary time, right? Because we've got to get in front of this and understand, like, how do we make sure that we are doing this in a manner, not necessarily that it's controlled, but is, in security, that we understand and is secure. Because we also know that while, there's people that are going to do things for the right reasons, we also know that there's people that are going to do them for the wrong reasons, that are always going to try and exploit something to do something that it's not supposed to do, which is just the hacker mindset. We're curious, that's what we do, but there's people that always take it too far on the other side, right? And so it's one of those things where we're on that slippery slope because we're moving so fast. So
I definitely agree with what you said, and you mentioned three things. So the first one is this interactiveness and how AI, like the generation part of it, and the interactivity helps like the creative mind to work better, and not only to work faster, but actually like to be able to generate better ideas because you're right there in the moment and you try different angles. The founders of Cursor, they talk about it a lot, about how like we both come from a programming background. So they talk about like when you write a program, it's so fun. Like you write something, then you write it on the computer, you see like the output, right? So I think the same experience is there in AI, right? Then you mentioned like the AI being able to analyze data, right? And I think this is one of the key part that a lot of people are missing essentially. Like AI, it essentially based on the generation of tokens, right? Like we all know, you ask something, then you start seeing these characters like popping up, right? But on top of these like foundations, there were built a lot of smart capabilities. So a lot of like data ingestion, data analysis, data retrieval mechanisms of like 2025, they exist because of generative AI. So essentially, a lot of tools that take huge amounts of data and then providing AI with the capabilities to go through these data and ask itself, like, what's more relevant? What might be less relevant? If I understood this so far, where should I go next? These are things that AI works behind the scenes very good as well. And I think this is like to us security practitioners, this is where the huge value is, because we all know that cybersecurity essentially is like tons of data and we just try to make sense of them, right?
Right.
And the third thing about like us being able to use it securely and safely, I think this is a very important thing. And even what intrigues me a lot, like we chatted very briefly about the AI based attack that Anthropic just talked about. So I believe that like hackers and they they are working on being able to utilize AI to do the bad things, right? Like on purpose. And I think that us on this side of the like on this side, on our side, on the good side, we have to build ourselves tools that would allow us to be secure in this world. Not only them should progress and utilize AI, but also should we do it as well?
Yeah. Absolutely. It is, and it's always been this interesting conversation, right? We don't, I think sometimes on our side, right, we look at it as, to protect, to keep out, and so it's this um I don't know. The word that comes to mind is like it's this burden, like, oh, we've got to stop, the other guys from getting in, stuff like that or whatever. And so we don't think of it from an aggressive mindset, right? So I'll use like a sports analogy a little bit, right? So like, so I play American football, right? So like in defense, right? Like you you can play it one of two ways, right? So you can truly say like, well, in defense, I'm trying to stop the offense from going forward. And so like you're constantly moving backwards, like you're trying to defend and you're reacting, right? Or like you can play an aggressive style of defense where it's like I'm playing defense, but I am attacking the offense, right? So I am going after the offensive weak spot. So I'm looking at the offense, I'm paying attention to how they are trying to come at me. And so I am looking for weak points against them. And that is one thing that I think in cybersecurity, we've never really looked at and go, okay, this is how they're coming at me. So let me find the weak points and how they attack and then go back the other way, right? And I think to your point, I think that's how we have to start looking at this for AI. It's like, okay, well, we've seen, like I read through that Anthropic report and it was, I mean, again, it's fascinating for me because this was always an area that I was fascinated in, right? So if I had not come out, after college and decided to get a degree, like I would have went back, got my master's, I would have studied data science. Like this was definitely an area I would have went to. I was just tired of being a broke college student. So I was like, listen, I'm going to go get a job. So it was fascinating, like to read this report and to see how this attack went down. And really, I would encourage all of you out there to go and read it. And Anthropic did two things. There was a blog they wrote it, and then it was reported. It's not a fairly technical read. It's not super technical, so don't worry if you feel like, oh my god, it's going to get really down in the weeds. It doesn't get too far down in the weeds, but the overall of it was basically, this was, I'll put it like this: it was a social engineer technical attack, right? So what they did was they took Claude code and they basically gave the LLM a very specific and narrowed instruction set, right? So basically, each instance of the code didn't only had a very narrow set of instructions, and so it passed all the guardrails and filters because it didn't know that it was being connected to a bunch of other things. So to give a very clear example, if I told you, if I gave you a piece of paper and I wrote on this paper or a set of instructions, and I said, okay, go take this, I don't know, trying to think of something go take this piece of, I don't know, paper and put it over there on a stool, right? It's one piece of paper. Take the piece of paper, put it on the stool. Cool. That's all you're doing. You have no context. You don't know what the piece of paper is. You don't know what the stool is, and that's it. And when you go put the piece of paper on the stool, I tell you, when you put the piece of paper on the stool, take a look around, tell me what you see. And you go, all right, cool. You come back and say, hey, I put the piece of paper on the stool. I looked around and I saw 3 people. Great. That's all you did, right? And so I just keep telling you to do that over and over again. What you don't know is I've got 10 other people with 10 other pieces of paper doing the same thing, right? And so they're putting the piece of paper down there. And so each one of those pieces of paper maybe connects together, right? It's telling a puzzle. And then all of them are coming back. And what I just did was I reconned the entire room. That piece of paper all connects together. I don't know, maybe is, another set of instructions that somebody in the room can now go read, right? And so what I just did was have 10 people all working together, but they don't know they're working together. So if somebody gets one of the people and arrests them, is like, oh, tell me what happened. I don't know. I just took this piece of paper with this. Those are my instructions. Who are you working for? I'm working for this one person. This is what they told me. Who else were you working with? Nobody, right? The same type of thing. You see this run in criminal organizations all the time, right? This is what, the drug kingpins do. This is why the street dealers, when they get caught, right, they can't rat on the supplier. They don't know who the supplier is. They don't know who their other people are, right? So yeah, they'll get caught for selling drugs, but they can't get to the big boss because they don't know who the big boss is. And so it was ingenious to see this, but just the level of thinking and how they run that. But the interesting thing was now at the scale, because they could automate and run these AI agents at the scale. So that was the interesting thing about it. So zoom all the way back out, right? So now you start to look at this and go, okay, well, now we're in this world where you have that, right? So this is the, kind of back to where I was going with that. On our side, it's well, we have the same aspect, right? We have these agents at our disposal. So we look at that and can see what's coming in. So how does that look on our networks when you see these attacks coming in, when we see behavior patterns, right? What can we do to spin up and start to look at different things, right? Now, there's some things that we have to do on our side and we need to better understand and get prepared for. I think, we've had these discussions for a long time as practitioners and just overall enterprise security, we have to get past so far these fundamentals to be able to start playing these games this way, right? To be in the game and in the fight. That's a discussion for a different day. We could have many beers and many discussion about that, but it is, I don't know, man. It's an exciting time because there's so many things right now that it's just there's so many things that the art of the possible for so long is now possible that we can do. And it's not theoretical. It's not, oh my God, it would take us forever to do it. It's guys, we could do this in a matter of minutes. We could do this now. So that's the exciting part about it. A little frustrating because there's so many things that are kind of in our way to get it done. But yeah, it's crazy. So every day it's new stuff.
I definitely agree that one of the things that we are going to see and already starting to see is that attacks are getting more and more sophisticated, right? This is one thing, and I think that we need better tools to handle them, better, more sophisticated tools. But I think I really love what you said about I like calling it the pace. So let's say that until now, when you attack an enterprise, you were bottlenecked not by the technological aspect, but by the brains of the people that actually orchestrate the attack, right? Where should we go next? Where should we settle? Which server probably the secrets are stored at? What can we do next? How we keep persistency? Things like that, right? So let's say that there was like a standard time frame for attacking an organization of this size, right? But today with AI agents, this could be compressed to a matter of hours, right? So if organizations think that they have like some time between the first signal until like the crown jewels are reached, now it can take a much shorter time to get there, right? So not only the sophistication, but we have to make sure that we handle the pace and the scale of AI agents. And I'm certain that the only way that we can defend such attacks is to have like similar tools on our end. Similar tools that are always running, just like the attackers' AI agents, right? That are more sophisticated than today's tools, that do not rely on the human factor, just like they don't rely on human
Right.
factors, maybe for specific decision making, but not for all of it. And I'm certain that this is where we should be heading.
Yeah. Because it's going to be it's the analysis and the pattern recognition, right? You know what I mean? And so it's the ability to get all that information and and deliver that context quickly. Because to your point, I think that window of reports, right? The average, it's that breach time detection window, right? And I believe, guys, don't quote me on this. We can go look it up, like whatever. It's 100 some odd days, right? You know, like that investigation time between breach and when they figure it out, like that window is in danger of like shrinking rapidly, because that's where these things are going to live in. And the reason why that window, right, is 100 some odd days, because right now, if we were to get access into any enterprise, it's at 100 odd days, because what are we doing? We're sitting and we're collecting data because we want to understand usage patterns. What are we trying to figure out? Number one, we're gonna escalate and get sideways privileges, right? So we're gonna want to know, okay, let me go and get my privileges. Let me figure out what privileges do I want, right? Do I want to go get domain admin? Do I want to get these privilege accounts? Okay, cool. How do they use those privileges? Great. Which servers do they go and get? Okay, cool. What's the pattern how they get those services? Because what I want to figure out is, once I get access, right? I'm not worried about that. I'm going to get access. I'm already in. So it's not about going and get the access. I got to go get the access and make sure that when I get the access, it looks just like how they get access. So I get in undetected. And now that I get that, where's the data that I want? So I'm just sitting and waiting. I'm collecting and gathering all this information. That's what I'm doing for the 100 days, right? And then when I do that, I'm in and out, and you never know that I'm gone. And so now that I'm in and out and I'm gone, now that's that time of, the security guys coming in to figure out, well, how do they get in? What you've got to go and find all the patterns, right? So that 100 days, now that if it's agent, like, they're going to get in, it's like, boom, well, I can get that pattern probably within 3 days. Now I know the pattern. Here you go. I'm in. Here's the pattern. Here's what you need to go do. Like, great. I know exactly what I need to do. I know the accounts. I know how to go. Like, I know how to go create it. And so that's going to get so much shorter, right? And on that side, we've one of the things we've always talked about, SOC analysts will tell you, anybody that's working there, is alert fatigue, alert fatigue, alert fatigue. On the vendor side, right? How do we connect into this and create all these things, and don't want to give the humans another thing with all these alerts, right? And so I think that's where, as from cybersecurity even down to identity security, this intelligence, and I get that, but intelligence is nothing if there's no context. If a user doesn't understand what they're looking at, I can give you 1,000 alerts, and I can give you dark mode, and I can give you all these pretty colors, but if you don't know what it means, it doesn't freaking matter, right? It doesn't. And so I think that's the important thing. And I think that's where, on our side, like having the agents and the intelligence to be able to say, listen, I can go look at all this stuff. Let the agents go give it all the data that you want to. Boom. Here's what this means, right? All these alerts, here's what it all means. These critical alerts, these things means this is the area you need to go look at and why, right? That's where I think I would say, at least for the next year to 2 years, that's where I would love to see the industry focus on, is move the AIs and intelligence to say, take this data, make it focus on the context, because that's what AI is good at, crunching numbers. So we built it for the last half a freaking century. We have been studying and researching how to get computers to get really, really good at understanding math models, because our brains don't, right? So let that do it, so that way a human can look at it and go, okay, this is what you're telling me. Great. Now let's go focus over here, because it's the attacks that we're going to start seeing are going to overload with information with the current systems, right? To your point, that the way the current systems are built, it's going to overload it with data. And it's just going to flood it. And people are going to be like, I don't even know what I'm looking at.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the only intelligence that matters is the one that either generates sorry, or utilizes context. Because just like running some mathematical models out of the blue, like in a vacuum, is not good enough. And let me give you this example, like in the identity space. So most of the times people talk about a privilege escalation path, right? Like you're a non-privileged user and you can gain privilege in one way or another. Now, if we were just to talk about it, like most of the people would say, oh my God, this is very, very important. This should be eliminated right away, right? But what if I told you that this happens in like a cloud account that is only for developers and only has like test information, non-production information? Or I have like plenty of such scenarios where the same thing would make, like, to us human beings would require a different approach or a different understanding of the consequences of it in different scenarios and in different environments. So this is where I believe that AI is going to be very beneficial. And like we talked before, AI is very good at crunching large amounts of data. And when people are skeptic, like we both from a programming background, so take a look of the AI coding industry. It it's
Yeah.
exploding, right? And I tested it like firsthand. Like I'm a Cloud Code user, by the way. I really love Anthropic. I think they're the best. And I took like this huge code base, and then I just ran Cloud Code, and I told the Cloud Code, like, please explain the project to me. And it did that like beautifully. It explained me what it does, what it does not do, how to run things, where should I look for if I'm looking for something specific, like this folder is responsible for that, that module is responsible for that. And I always say that when we get to that level in cybersecurity, like having AI that works all the time behind the scenes to understand your environment, to understand everything, how everything happens, how everything is configured, and be able to explain that in a simple language and provide you with the interface to interact with it, just like you interact with ChatGPT. Ask questions like, hey, who are the users in my environment that have access to this thing? And is it dangerous? Did they use that? Did they use it recently? Or even more complicated things like, help me design a better IAM architecture for these and like these four applications, right? Because most of the time, like the organizations that I've spoken to, they told me that organic growth of the organization caused that nobody has ever designed the architecture of the permissions,
Yep.
essentially. One of the things that also happens is that you have so many identity assets like roles, groups, that their names and descriptions, they describe nothing near their actual, like what they actually do, right? So if you were to use like legacy tools that would say something like, okay, I see that this user is called like service account or something like that, or I see that this role is called privileged access, and therefore it's a privileged access. Now, no, this is okay, but the world is much more chaotic and unstructured and complex and complicated, right? We have so many legacy applications, like identity and permission has been here for decades too. So you have this all accumulated identity and access management configurations. And like I always say that the first step the AI should do is try to understand what actually happens in your environment, and not only relying on what us humans described and wrote in the description, but by actually looking at the
Hmm.
environment and seeing like what
Yeah.
actually happens.
And it's, it's interesting because we get here because like we were, you know, in the past, we've been trying to build systems to, for lack of a better term, like guess what the user was going to do, right? Because we didn't know. It's like, all right, so that's what permission, all these permission models and everything we're trying to create, right? A group, a role, whatever, call it whatever you wanted to do. But we're trying to set it up and guess, like, what is the user going to do when they access this application? We don't know. So we're going to create some kind of construct, and our best guess is they're going to do this, right? And put them in some kind of container and say, we're going to contain you to do these things. And when you need to do something different, right, we're going to put you into a different container. And so that was our best, guess at trying to, have you jump back and forth between containers. But the reality is that's not how organizations work, right? Organizations, you come to work, they move organically, right? It's like a person does this or they do this or they do this, like things change. And so we couldn't keep up with like where someone would go, right? Or how they would actually work. And so now, I've had this idea in my head. I'll never forget. This was 20, it's probably 2011. I remember walking, I won't say the company's name, but I remember walking into the head of engineering and I was like, I just, I don't know what made me go down the path. I was looking at like, I was studying graph databases at the time and graph theory and relationships and going down nodes and functions and all that stuff or whatever. And I remember looking at it and guys, this is how much of a nerd I am. I think it was like Saturday night or whatever. So, and I was like, okay, if I look at a graph and you go all the way to the graph, I was like, this tree is much like, the access to an identity, right? Like, resource entitlement, group, all this stuff, or whatever. This is way back in 2011. And so I'm looking at this and I was like, so if I go from a user, like all the way down to, where something accesses, right? So from, role to entitlement down to permission, and, going from a root all the way down to the node. And I was like, and I can calculate a path like to the node. And you have all the functions that go down and what's the most efficient way and how many times it goes down. I was like, but going from there to there, like if I know the activity and I know how many times they access it, right, I can trace through the node, like one, what's the most efficient path to go get down there. So if I'm doing that, that's my activity. So what activity path are you going down to get there? Then I can, based on that, kind of do predictive and go, well, if I can look at at the very end of the tree, those are all the resources you can get to. I can then kind of predict from one node, like what resources could you possibly get to based on activity if I'm tracing down the graph. So anyway, I spent that Saturday night going through all this. I remember I was talking to head engineer and I was like, have you ever looked at trying to model like access, like, from a graph model? And he just kind of looks at me and goes, why would you do that? We use SQL relational database, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, I just think that like, but you could actually model like past the roles, past the, groups. Cause right now we stop here. Right. And we don't see anything past that, whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, and I think the world like solved authentication a lot thanks to single sign-on, and thank you for everybody that has worked on that part. But now we have to step
Yeah.
into the authorization. So authentication is like is essentially you can model it in a relational database, like who has a certain access to an application and maybe even like what role within that application, right? But for authorization, we all know that like similar to lateral movement paths, essentially permissions are sort of like accumulated. You get from one system to another, only to get to another system, only to do some action on a resource or data, right? So essentially, if you want to model the the authorization part, I believe that you have to do it in a graph manner, right? And regarding, by the way, what you said about guessing what the person is going to do, so it's very funny, but very early in our process in identity security, we realized that most of the time, even the person doesn't know what permission
Right.
he or she needs, right? We talked to a lot of customers, and then they told us, like, hey, one of the problems that I have is I do have like people requesting access, but they guess what? They always request global administrator, right? And the reason is not that they actually want to be administrators or nearly like they're near to actually need to be global administrators. But the problem is that they don't want to do like a PhD on the destination system to understand like what specific permission they need to do, right? So I also imagine that today with AI, you would be able to like write a prompt like, hey, I need to do this and that, or I need to do this action or read this data. Just go ahead and make
Right.
it possible for me. Like, essentially, we're going to take all the entitlements and the permission sets and the access profiles and the identities even themselves and make them an
Yeah.
implementation detail, right? And essentially free us, human beings, to talk only with our intentions. And it's a much easier language because if I come to you, let's say you're my manager, and you tell me to do something, and then I'm asking for permission to access this resource,
Right.
it makes a lot of sense, right? But if I were to come to you and tell you like, hey, I need a permission like octa.groups.read or something like that, how would you know
Right.
if it makes sense
Yeah.
or not, right?
It's there was two very, and I keep bringing this up, and at some point I'm gonna go and research and get the exact quotes. I should, because it just they keep coming back to me. So two quotes, right? The CEO of Microsoft said that the what he sees at AI, and I'm paraphrasing. I got to go get the exact quote, but basically that it's kind of like the death of the modern day application, right? Because if AI just kind of replaces like all like the business logic between applications. So now you just have the AI interface, right? And the data. And so it's exactly what you just said. Like, you tell the AI what you want, it has it figures out everything else, goes to the data, and then just presents it back to you, right? So we just killed SaaS and applications and everything, right? Because it's like you kind of don't need it anymore, right? And then so I remember thinking that, and I think it was like a month later, like he got that quote. I can't remember if it was at a Microsoft event or something like that or whatever. And it's crazy for like the CEO of Microsoft to say that, because I'm like, dude, like you're just basically telling me that like you're destroying your entire business. But then you look at it as like, well, that's why they're so heavily invested in OpenAI. It's like, oh, we might as well invest in a thing that we think is going to kill us in about 10 years. All right, cool. But then also like, Sam Altman, right? I will, in a conversation with the guy that the founder of Reddit, right, where they talk about, you know, this belief that there's going to be a, solopreneur, unicorn company that goes off to 1 billion, right? Because it's just the speed. And we were kind of talking about this a little beforehand. Like, I love getting back into coding now because it's just with, agents and the ability to do things, right? But like, you can see the productivity and how fast you can move. And I think it was like a couple of months later, like Base 44 sells for $80 million to Wix, right? It was like six, 7 people in 6 months, right? And it's nuts, right? I mean, to see like the things that's happening there. So I agree with you that I think the change that we're going to see with this, right? The ability for, users to just say like, here's what I need, right? Like, why I don't know what the entitlement permission stuff is. I was like, I just need to go do this, right? And I think that's been the struggle, like in identity for so long, right? Like why there's all these, over permissions and why users hold on to permissions for so long, because it's like, I don't know what I need access to. So I'm going to request for everything. And then when I finally get it, I'm not going to let it go because it was so painful for me to get this access, right? And so now I can actually functionally do my job. So it's like I'm just going to keep it. Managers, when they do access reviews, well, I don't want to remove it because I don't want to cause my employee to lose productivity, right? Why? Simply because I don't understand the context of what any of this stuff does, and so I'm just going to go keep rocking with it. Therefore, what happens? I'm increasing the level of risk and access to everything because that's the only way that I can continue to run business operations, right? It's like all this stuff is connected, right? And so we're finally at a point where it's like, all right, well, we've got the modern tools to be able to analyze and provide all of this. So now we can actually look at this, we can understand, we can provide you the context, and we can just make it easier. Like that part to me is the exciting part, right? And it's crazy because I said this at one of our events this year. I was like, the kind of sucky thing about our job and identity security is like a good day for us is nothing happens. Right? Like the user
Yeah.
doesn't see anything, like nothing happens for us, right? Like it's just they click on something and it works. They log in, right? Like nothing happens, nobody gets an alert, right? Like they just go to work and do what they're supposed to do. And that we've done our jobs excellently. And I was like, and that's the both beautiful and sucky part about what we do every day. And I was like, but you know,
Yeah. And I agree with you very much. And I think that right now we're in the stage that like identity security in particular is one of like the old ones in cybersecurity. Like we have old tools, more importantly, old processes and old like approach to it even. Yeah. And I'm starting to see people adopting tools that are more modern, AI native tools. They still use it for like admin time, governance, right? So it makes it a lot better. But it's like it happens once in a while, right? Or like in specific point in time. But what I would like to see, and I believe this is where we're heading to, but it will take us like the world some time, is also move to the runtime,
yeah,
not only admin time, but also to runtime. And once we as humanity gain trust in AI systems to be like part of the critical infrastructure, I believe that we could provide it with more agency and autonomy. And essentially, I believe that AI could take us to the world with essentially zero standing privileges, and everything that you click is like inline sends a request to this like huge brain that assesses whether it's like an okay request or a not okay request, provides you with the right permissions that you need to do your job, and you just go your own
yeah.
day, right?
I think that's exactly where it's headed, right? And I think it's hard not to look at the pace and say that it's like it's going to be here faster than like we think it is, right? Like it, and
Oh
and
yeah,
like I look at it and I'm like, dude, like okay, like 3 years, like 5 years, like like you know what I'm saying? It's
it's
like, and
happening.
I was like, I'm not trying to be like alarmist or like, nah, Dave, but I'm just like, you gotta. I mean, I'm looking at it. I'm like, listen, like ChatGPT is only 2 years old. Like, look how fast it's moved. Like, look how fast the model has advanced. Like, I'm just like this. It's possible. Like, so yeah. And just the things that I am seeing get like developed and technology is truly moving at a pace that I've never seen this in my lifetime ever. Now, I mean, there's cynics out there that say, "Oh yeah, but this could be a bubble, all this stuff, whatever." Cool, fine. I was like, but regardless if it's a bubble or not, like we've still never seen like technology being created like this. Like, yes, we've seen companies come and go, stuff like that, or whatever, but like we've seen companies get funded and then like go out of business, but we've never seen companies get funded like like technology is actually getting created and processed. Like I'm sorry. Like I just bubble or not, like this is going to this is something, right? It is going to change the course of how we do things. And so It's going to be fascinating to see. So listen, man, we could talk for hours clearly. So this has truly been like excellent. You're welcome to come back anytime, man. Like we can have any conversation you want. This has been fun. I do want to, I would be remiss, man, like just 2 minutes, a little bit. Tell us a little bit about Fabrics, man. Like, what you guys are all about, stuff like that. I at least want the people to know about that. But yeah, man. And are you going to Gartner? Are you guys gonna be at Gartner? All right.
Yes, yes, I
Let's
am
make
going
sure
to
we
be
catch up at
there.
Gartner, man. Have a conversation, grab a drink, something like that. But yeah, let's tell us a little bit about Fabrics.
Yeah, so thanks for that. So essentially in Fabrics, this is what we do, right? We build AI for identity and access management, and we're building what I imagine that is going to be this artificial brain that does everything that we just mentioned. And we're starting with tackling the missing piece of identity security tools today. And this is the point in time where a decision needs to be happening, right? For example, you have access reviews, access requests, joiner movers, leavers, things like that. A lot of this still relies on the human factor, and people just don't have enough context when they need to make this decision, like whether to approve or to reject. So this is exactly where we sit. We build like this entirety of context behind the scenes, and we utilize it right in line in the decision making process. And over time, as people gain more trust in our system, they provide us with more autonomy, and we automate entire processes on our own using our AI agents. Happy to elaborate more. If anyone's interested, please go to fabrics.security. Happy to catch up on this. David,
Yeah,
thank you
man.
so much for having me here. The conversation was amazing. Looking forward to
Yeah,
seeing you
man. No,
in
it's gonna be
Dallas.
fun. Looking forward to seeing you as well. And yeah, man, this is a great conversation, dude. I love everything. I love everything about where we are in AI. Right? There's so much to do. Right? There's still so much to build. There's so much to secure. It's a good time, and I'm glad we have passionate people in it. Like yourselves, and I think part of what we have to do as a community, all of us. Right? This is not just me and Roz. It's everybody that's listening to this. Is bring everything. Right? We got to challenge. We got to research. There's times to be scared. There's times to have fun. All of it, and that's how we continue to make all of this better. So you guys know what it is. This has been a great show. Be good to each other. Be kind to each other. Love each other. We'll see you guys on the next episode. If you come to Gardner, we'll see you in Gardner. All right, welcome back. Awesome interview. Roz, you are welcome back on the pod anytime, sir. I've monologued enough. You guys heard enough of me in this year. Let's wrap this up. I think that's it for 2025, right? I may try and do a live session. So we may do one more. We may do one more live session. We'll see. But if not, this has been an amazing year. Thank you, everybody. If you've listened, if you've watched, if you liked, you've rated, subscribed, we appreciate it. It's gone a long way. This has been an amazing journey. Season 3 is coming to an end. Season 4 is in the planning sessions right now. We got so many things planned. So make sure that you are locked in, that you are subscribed. You tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, because it's going to be an amazing roller coaster ride next season as we start to do even bigger and better things. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for rocking with us and helping us grow this thing. Here's to you having an amazing new year. Be good to each other, be kind to each other, love each other. Take every moment, take every second, take every breath and value it. Don't take it for granted. We do not know how many breaths we have in this life. We do not know from day to day what we are promised in this world. So make sure you value each one. Hug a friend today, hug a loved one. Let them know you love them. We'll see you guys in the new year.
I won't stop, I can't stop. The grind is all I know. I'm focused, I can't stop. The hustle's all I know. I'm hungry, ambitious. My heart is on go. You in the presence of greatness. That's all you need to know.